People always said Zhou Qingchuan was indifferent and aloof, but he pursued me like a dog for 10 years, until I was pushed into a raging fire. He didn't hesitate to abandon his fortune worth hundreds of millions and followed me into the inferno, reborn into this life. I decided not to be the bad woman who kept him hanging, and instead devoted myself wholeheartedly to treating him well. Unfortunately, it seems he was reborn too. Lin Huan. Do you still want to treat me like a dog like in your past life? Huh? I was cornered by him, forced to sign a divorce agreement. He said he would never want me in this lifetime, absolutely never. 1. When I was 11, someone cruelly broke 5 of my fingers. From that moment, I vowed to become someone at the pinnacle of this world, by any means necessary, without scruples. Later, I did many wrong things and eventually, I was retaliated against and pushed into a fire. As I was being swallowed by the flames, I thought of nothing, but then, a white figure burst into my view and held me tight. It was Zhou Qingchuan, my husband, the man who loved me so deeply, a man without any blemishes in his life except for me. As we turned to ash, I thought, if there is another life, I swear I'll dedicate my heart and soul to only being good to him. 2. This is the divorce agreement. Sign it. The flickering lights made my thoughts swirl. The man standing opposite lowered his eyes, hiding the coldness in his gaze. Zhou Qingchuan, don't be like this. I tried to grab his hand, his veins throbbed, and he quickly withdrew his hand. This was the first hour and 41 minutes of my rebirth. Suddenly, I felt an inexplicable sense of relief. Zhou Qingchuan finally realized I was a bad woman who deceived him out of his money and emotions. He didn't want me anymore. 3. I sat in a cake shop, looking through the thin glass, watching 2 figures swaying in the opposite school building. Zhou Qingchuan surely didn't know I was secretly watching him explain a problem to that girl, who was nearly clinging to his sleeve. Yes, in this life, Zhou Qingchuan should know who is kind and who is innocent, but still, I propped up my chin and sent a message to that girl. Xiaomiao, how are you seducing your brother-in-law? For, Lin Xiaomiao is my younger sister, to be precise, she is the real daughter, and I am the fake one. I was picked up by Lin's mother on a stormy day when I was 12, everyone thought it was a coincidence, but it wasn't. To make Lin's mother find me pitiful on that rainy day, I deliberately broke my own leg. I wanted glory and wealth, to be above everyone else, to never taste that bone-deep humiliation again. When Lin Xiaomiao was 16, she was found and brought back to the Lin family. She was always kind, innocent, and pure, the things I had to break my bones to achieve. She obtained without doing anything. I hated her. I wondered why she didn't have to fall into the mire and taste the pain. 5. I am such a wicked and bad woman. So, in my past life, I suffered a lot. Perhaps, Lin Xiaomiao was really like what those people described. She was like a goddess. So I must have angered the gods. In this life, the only person who loved me also abandoned me. I curled up on the sofa, staring at the divorce agreement on the coffee table. Zhou Qingchuan, are you coming home tonight? This message lying in my phone had gone unanswered for 4 whole hours. Zhou Qingchuan's disposition was always indifferent. His friends always complained that he is as cold as ice, but in my past life, I never felt that way. To me, he was like my dog. He would come whenever he smelled me, always rubbing against me, ready to hold my hand the moment it was free. Forget not replying to messages. If I said one thing, he would respond eagerly with 10. But now, a message popped up, and I thought it was from him. I hurried to check, but it wasn't. It was from Lin Xiaomiao, a message accompanied by a picture. Sister, I didn't mean to seduce your husband. I just want to help manage our father's company. So your husband was just introducing me to some people. In the photo, the girl stood next to him with a charming smile. They looked like a perfect match. I must have called Zhou Qingchuan a dozen times. He didn't pick up, and eventually, he just blocked me. Actually, Zhou Qingchuan was never good with social niceties. He was all about academia. In my past life, to take some shares of my father's company from Lin Xiaomiao, I asked him to help me win over those in the pharmaceutical industry. He did it without a word of complaint. I never considered that he was a professor from a prestigious university, too dignified to bow down and beg favors from those people. I only remember one incident from my past life. I was discussing a partnership and got drunk. So I called him to pick me up. The private room was filled with influential figures, and as I leaned against the sofa, I watched his pale figure approach step by step. Come here, calling him over as if teasing a dog, a highly respected medical professor. A man who never lowered his chin in his daily life, being joked about by me in public like that must have felt exhilarating at the time. Everyone thought he would storm out, but what did Zhou Qingchuan do then? He walked up to me step by step, then he naturally squatted down and grasped my ankle. He adjusted my dangling high heel, looking up, his eyebrows seemed like a gentle mural. It's getting colder tonight, don't catch a cold. 1111. He liked calling me that, but after being reborn, he never called me that again. I'm a light sleeper, so I woke up the moment he came home. I lay there, wanting to see what he would do seeing me completely unguarded, but he just walked past me. Not even willing to cover me with a blanket, I sat up and threw the divorce papers at his back. The man paused, his spine attractively visible. don't damage it. If I have to draft it again, you won't get as much." Under the moonlight, I sat there watching him, his tone calm. A shadow of a cloud hid in his pupils, mixed with obscure coldness. "I won't sign." I stared at him intently. He seemed to expect it, nodding. "Okay, then we'll go to court. Zhou Qinchuan, you bastard." I lunged at him, trying to grab him, but he subdued me easily. Under the curved moonlight, he pinned me on the couch, his hand gripped my neck, not gently at all. I bit the base of his thumb. He seemed not to feel the pain, but suddenly, he let go. A gentle touch brushed across my cheek. "So you can cry too." He left these cold and ambiguous words behind, leaving me alone in the living room. I pressed my eyes shut tightly, as if that would stop the tears from spilling out. "Don't leave me behind." I made a vow when I was 10, never to say those words again. I refused to sign the divorce papers. The next day, Zhou Qinchuan withdrew from all collaborations related to me. The Zhou family owns a significant part of the medical industry, and he is a top scholar in this field, I admit. In my previous life, I married him for profit. I knew he didn't want me anymore, but still, when I found out he had shifted all the projects to collaborate with Lin Xiaomiao, my heart felt a dull pain, although I also felt this was just, in my previous life, he truly saw through me. Lin Xiaomiao was so pure and clean, unlike me, who was accustomed to achieving goals through dirty means. His withdrawal from the collaboration served as a warning to others in the field, and suddenly, I found myself completely isolated. I decided to try and win Zhou Qinchuan over again. "Zhou Qinchuan, are you at school? I made some lunch, can I bring it over?" I didn't dare to hope that he still had feelings for me, but I genuinely hoped he could remember our past and not be too ruthless. Staring at my phone, which showed no response, I felt my face thickening with shame. After yesterday's quarrel, when it came to matters of benefit, I still had to beg. I planned to cook him a delicious meal and deliver it personally. Then I realized a problem. I had no idea what Zhou Qinchuan liked to eat. On the contrary, he probably knew my likes and dislikes by heart, as feeding me all sorts of delicacies was his greatest obsession in his previous life. I wasn't that delicate, but I enjoyed being capricious in front of him. "Zhou Qinchuan, this noodle is too hard." Zhou Qinchuan, who would eat such soft noodles? "Zhou Qinchuan, I don't like spicy food." "Zhou Qinchuan, when did you start cooking so blandly?" He only got angry with me once. His dark eyebrows and eyes stared at me intensely, his tone cold and serious. "Huan, do you think I will always stand by your side?" I looked down at my manicured nails and told him, "Then you can leave." That was my response, and he really did leave. In sub-zero weather, he stormed out without his coat, probably fuming with anger. Around evening, I sent him a message, "Zhou Qinchuan, I miss you." Within moments, the door was opened. He suddenly pulled me into his arms, the cold air mixing with his warmth, his tall nose pressed against my neck, and I heard him say, "Yes, I will always stand by your side." You see, training Professor Zhou in my previous life was even simpler than training a dog. The third time I cut my hand until it bled, staring at the boiling unknown substance in the pot, I snapped back from my memories. Realizing that I was not talented in cooking, I ended up ordering takeout from Lin Xuan Pavilion and transferred it into my own thermos. After all, there wasn't much difference between home-cooked and takeout. Probably. "Sorry, sister, I didn't know you also brought lunch for Teacher Zhou. He has already eaten the meal I made." Lin Xiaomiao stood in front of me, visibly flustered and panicking. "Call him brother-in-law." I smiled at her, noticing her hands tighten within her sleeves. "Zhou Qinchuan." I stood in front of the man who was eating his meal, head bowed, ignoring me. I took the chopsticks from his hand and replaced the lunchbox in front of him with mine. He stared at the dish for a moment before finally fixing his deep, dark eyes on me. "Look." I extended my hand, covered in band-aids, towards him. "I got these cuts while cooking for you. It took me a long time. Won't you eat my cooking?" I met his gaze calmly, yet it felt as if I was on the verge of shattering. Finally, he sighed. "Lin Huan, this dish looks exactly like the ones from Lin Xuange. Did you learn it from them?" I pretended not to understand the teasing in his words and decided to just let everything go. "Zhou Qinchuan, just tell me if you will eat it or not." It seemed like whenever I got angry, he would soften and coax me. I was used to this, but I had forgotten that this wasn't the same as our past lives. Yet, he still bowed his head and slowly ate the seafood congee in front of him, obediently, just like the Zhou Qinchuan of our past life who would do anything I asked. After finishing, he watched me as I bent over for the first time to clean up the lunchbox. "Lin Huan," he called my name, clear and refreshing like a stream. "I'm allergic to seafood." "After 2 lifetimes, you still can't remember?" Shocked, I looked up at him. His usually pale wrist was now noticeably red and rashy, plainly visible to me. "Is torturing me to death the only thing that makes you happy?" Zhou Qinchuan had a severe seafood allergy. From the redness starting at his wrist to his incessant coughing and eventually difficulty in breathing, it only took a few minutes. "How could you let him touch seafood at all?" The doctor said if we had brought Mr. Zhou in any later, he might have died. "Sister, how could you not know about this? Why didn't you know?" At the hospital door, Lin Xiaomiao looked at me with teary eyes, her voice tinged with a cry. She liked Zhou Qinchuan. I knew that, otherwise. I wouldn't have given him a second glance in our past lives. Well, he drank it himself, didn't he? I weakly defended myself when the door to the hospital room opened. The nurse nodded, indicating the patient was awake. Through the slightly opened door, I saw Zhou Qingchuan sitting on the bed. Looking at me, it seemed he had heard every word of my feeble defense. His gaze was empty, void of anything, even disappointment. Lin Xiaomiao rushed to his bedside. "Mr. Zhou, how are you?" I followed. But the man, silent for a long time, suddenly coughed. "Lin Huan," his voice was low, his dark eyes staring straight at me. My heart skipped a beat, and I instinctively walked towards him. "Can you never appear in front of me again?" This was Zhou Qingchuan's request. I don't know why my reaction was even more intense than his. I stormed out of the hospital room, slamming the door behind me. Yes, I manipulated situations. I was heartless. I was utterly wicked, but why? Why couldn't he still stand by my side? Why couldn't he just stand by my side? No matter what kind of person I was, he chose Lin Xiaomiao over me. When I got home, I happened to spot the stuffed toy lying on the sofa. It was a limited edition dragon that he won for me before we got married. He thought of it as just an ordinary gift. Back then, I had no clue that to win this dragon, he had scoured 5 malls and emptied 4 claw machines. In the end, he presented it to me in a bar that day. I had him drink a lot. His ears turned red, slightly tipsy. He pulled out the dragon from behind his back. "Lin Huan," he called my name. "Can you look at me?" He hid behind the dragon, waving its claws at me. "Can I stay by your side, even if, it was a faint sigh, barely audible next to me?" He threw away all the dignity of being Zhou Qingchuan. "Even if I have to be the backup, that's fine." It turns out, memories really do haunt you in the dead of night. As I stood at the door of Zhou Qingchuan's hospital room past midnight, that's what I thought. The night was silent, the curtains barely covering the window. I stood beside his bed, looking down at the man who seemed restless even in his sleep. Zhou Qingchuan's face, undoubtedly, had the charm that made college girls daydream about him. With his high nose bridge and sharp brow bones, he always carried an air of pride. How come? He's been entangled with me for most of my life. I unconsciously leaned closer, only to find myself caught in his cold, deep gaze. He had woken up at some point, leaning against the headboard, watching me. His look was so cold, I instinctively stepped back. Have you finally grown to dislike me?" I sniffled, for some reason, under the dim moonlight. I suddenly found myself smirking at him with a bit of self-mockery. "Surprised?" he said, clearly biting each word. "Shouldn't I dislike you?" I felt a dark sharpness expanding around him. He sat up straight, his earnestness heartbreaking. "You're so selfish, so utilitarian. Always resorting to the lowest tactics. Shouldn't I dislike you, Lin Huan? But so what? Zhou Qingchuan, are you telling me you just found out I'm like this?" For some reason, tonight I was easily provoked. The night was uneasy, and for the first time, I wasn't so effortlessly poised in front of him. I grabbed his collar, feeling his anger too, as the blue veins on his neck stood out prominently. "What's wrong? You don't want me anymore. Or do you think Lin Xiaomiao is better? That's why you're so affectionate with her. Let me tell you, even if we divorce, I won't let you have a happy future. If I can't have it, I'll destroy it. For someone like me, who lives in the mire and can't stand the sight of any bright light, it's impossible for them to reach a so-called happy ending." I bared my teeth at him, but was met with his clear, calm eyes. He leaned back on the bed, a faint smile on his lips as he looked at me. "Ah. Huan, when did you become so irritable, so easily stirred up? You've lost." I suddenly let go of his collar. Yes, what am I doing? Not only exposing my weaknesses, at this moment. If I wanted to find a way to get through the current difficulties, the best solution would be to appease the man in front of me. In my past life, I was adept at this, but looking at the man who now sat composedly before me, my throat felt clogged, and I couldn't speak. After a while, I swallowed the words. "Please, I beg you." Instead, I said, "Fine, just you wait, Zhou Qingchuan, I can do just fine without you. Also, I will not lose, refuse to lose, and absolutely cannot lose." I walked out of the hospital room in high heels. Falling out with Zhou Qingchuan meant giving up on him completely. No matter how you look at it, it was an impractical plan, but I no longer wanted to bow down to him. "It was you who gave up everything to join me in hell in our past lives. You who always clung to me. You endured my deceit for so long, and I had already decided to treat you well. I had already started to see you as family. Why then?" I stared at my reflection in the elevator mirror. Luckily, I walked away so quickly, he couldn't see my eyes, red and swollen with tears. "Why tell me now? You've come to your senses." It felt like being thrown back into the mire. Zhou Qingchuan's departure triggered a series of chain reactions. Everything unfolded just like in our past lives. Lin Xiaomiao gradually won everyone's favor, while I became the universally despised villain. The only difference was that Zhou Qingchuan, who had always been by my side in the past life, was no longer here. Miss Lin really knows how to hold her liquor. The middle-aged, slightly corpulent man approached me, reeking of alcohol. I struggled greatly to suppress the urge to pour my drink over his balding head. This collaboration was crucial. My father had already begun to lose hope in me, showing a clear preference for nurturing Lin Xiaomiao. Over the years, my ambition to climb the ranks had made me too many enemies, and what would become of me, an orphan with no support? I might just be kicked back into the mire I came from. Mr. Wang is joking. I brushed my hair from my forehead, and the man stared at me, almost drooling, but whenever the topic of collaboration came up, he would skillfully change the subject, taking the opportunity to ply me with more alcohol. He was indeed a sly old fox. The discomfort from the alcohol continually assaulted my brain, and I squinted my eyes, drinking another glass amid the cheering crowd, but in a daze. A sharp figure suddenly entered my view. The door of the private room opened.
Ah.
Professor Zhou, you finally arrived. The disdainful and lecherous old man who had just been ogling me immediately switched to a flattering demeanor, and this was the first time I saw Zhou Qinchuan in 3 months. He still seemed like a pristine white lotus, untouched by the dirt of the world. Mr. Wang. The man casually nodded at the others. I'm here to introduce one of my students to you. With that, I saw Lin Xiaomiao timidly peeking from behind Zhou Qinchuan. Now I understood why Mr. Wang had been so evasive earlier. His pharmaceutical company could double its market value if it could connect with Zhou Qinchuan, and with Lin Xiaomiao here, Zhou Qinchuan paving the way meant I had to hand over my deal to her. Strangely, Lin Xiaomiao seemed uninterested, yet she always managed to precisely snatch away everything related to me. The deal fell through. I feared that if I stayed a few seconds longer, I wouldn't be able to stop myself from throwing my drink, half on Mr. Wang's head, half on Zhou Qinchuan's head, so I pretended to greet them and walked out of the private room, but as I supported myself along the hallway, something felt terribly wrong. My body felt strange, as if something was burning up. My head was heavy, my feet light, my body weak. What had that old man, Pai Yongda, put in my drink? The next second, I was abruptly pulled into a corner nearby. I struggled violently, but my body was too weak to fight back. Miss Zhou, can you just stay still? Everyone knows you're just a cast-off. You were adopted. There was Zhou Qinchuan, and you squandered that. However, if you're willing to spend the night with me, I might just consider giving you this deal. His greasy voice exploded next to my ear. The drug was extremely potent. My limbs were weak. I desperately tried to make some noise, but the club was high-end with good sound insulation, and there was no one around. I could only watch helplessly as that man lecherously reached under my skirt. But suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway. I had never been so certain that they were Zhou Qinchuan's footsteps. It was only at that moment that I realized how familiar I was with him. I desperately tried to make a noise, but the man was pressing down on me, choking me, making it hard to breathe. For the first time, tears fell heavily due to physical discomfort. You motherfucker. I heard him panting threats in my ear. Just as the footsteps started to fade, an untimely noise was made. The footsteps stopped, then turned towards us. I struggled fiercely, silently raging. Zhou Qinchuan, come the fuck over here. I'm about to die. But whether out of rage or desperation, the man pressed his fingers harder around my throat. My heart raced as the footsteps stopped right beside us. Suddenly, a timid, sweet voice called from down the hall. Mr. Zhou, there are a lot of people in the room, and I'm really scared by myself. Can you come and keep me company? Don't go to such a dark place. The footsteps abruptly halted. My heart sank into boundless darkness. The next second, I was abruptly pulled into the dimly lit hallway. The man's screams also abruptly resounded in my ears. Zhou Qinchuan seemed to have learned some fighting skills over the years, but when the man was thrown out, I was also shocked. Then, I fell into a less than enthusiastic embrace. Zhou Qinchuan, he took off his coat and draped it over my disheveled form. The turmoil inside me surged more than ever due to his brief touch. Strangely, I resisted letting things continue this way and struggled to get off him, but he held me tightly. My throat was sweet, unable to make a sound. Slowly, more and more people came out of the private room, and I saw Lin Xiaomiao's red, aggrieved eyes. My consciousness then sank into a deep, dark stupor. I was awakened by the cold. The shower continuously sprayed liquid much colder than my body temperature. The man stood by, watching me, his thoughts inscrutable. Give me my clothes. I tried to get up, finding my limbs powerless. His touch sparked a shiver. I abruptly shook off his hand. In fact, in my past life, I always treated Zhou Qinchuan this way. Temper is nurtured, and in my past life, his indulgence almost let me do whatever I wanted. Mr. Wang gave you a very new drug. Are you sure you can walk out? He looked down at me, his expression ambiguous. I worked in drug research and understood the lingering effects and antidotes for such drugs, and now, the perfect antidote was right in front of me. If it were the me from my past life, I would have clung to him by now, but now, I hesitated. Suddenly, the sound of a belt unbuckling lightly echoed. I shivered, then the clear water splashed lightly. He grasped the back of my neck. The kiss came suddenly. Here, I'll skip the part about the antidote's effects wearing off, which nobody likes to read about. It felt like I was being rescued from a torrential sea. My mind started to regain a slight semblance of clarity, and then, with all the reality of the moment, I slapped him hard across the face. His head turned sharply to one side. Zhou Qingchuan's features are strikingly handsome in an aggressive way, his eyelashes extraordinarily long. From my angle, they were dotted with fine droplets of water. He let out a laugh, like a flower suddenly blooming in ruins. You really know how to use and discard. The sound of trickling water still echoed around the bathroom. Through the shimmering reflection, I looked into his eyes, hiding countless secrets. Zhou Qingchuan, why did you guide Lin Xiaomiao? Whether it's because you pity her past self, or you genuinely fell for her, Zhou Qingchuan, if you have her in your heart, when it comes time to choose between us, don't choose me. I'm not someone who is very emotional, even after pondering most of my life. I still don't understand what liking someone truly means, but I view everything the same way. I want it all, the very best. If he is distracted, then he is worthless to me, and I am not lacking in worthless things, Lin Huan. His eyes clouded over with darkness, impenetrable. We've both been given a second life. We both know what the best path forward is, don't we? What is your logic telling you not to repeat the mistakes of your past life? Then just leave. I splashed water at him. He didn't dodge. Instead, he continued to look at me with those pale, sad eyes.
Ah.
Huan, he called me, the name lingering on his lips, grinding away disappointment and resentment. It's not me who's repeating the same mistakes. It's you, stubbornly following the same dark path, unwilling to repent, right? I froze, panic slowly magnifying within me. The man stood up, the world outside so dark, tied to his shadow. His gaze rested on me, my thoughts in turmoil. Next time don't let Director Wang handle things, he's too careless. He didn't dispose of the medication packaging properly. In the quiet of the bathroom, I listened to his every word, striking deep into my heart. That medication came from your lab. Didn't it? He couldn't have known the formula before our collaboration. Today, so many saw me protecting you, that should be enough for you. With those words, the man left the bathroom. I lay alone in the bathtub, half submerged in darkness. I looked up, staring at the gloomy ceiling. Yes, that's enough. I can't lose. Director Wang might look a decade or two older than me, but he was actually my college classmate. Everything today was orchestrated by me. I gambled on whether Zhou Qingchuan would save me publicly. If he saved me, it would prove that our relationship wasn't as fractured as it seemed, and I could use him again as a leverage for my comeback. I won the bet. Now, there are probably many partners eager to contact me and restart collaborations, but why am I so afraid? The way Zhou Qingchuan looked at me when he left, I suddenly realized, my heart. It turns out I can also be so disoriented and panicked because of his disappointment. Destruction at the root is the relentless redemption of the soul. Why do villains in movies and dramas live so long? Perhaps they are just like me, shameless, having abandoned too much. As the year draws to a close, my position has finally been solidified once again. Lin Xiaomiao messed up several collaborations, and eventually, my father, the capitalist, shifted his focus back to me. Things were supposed to progress positively from here, but unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, I had made too many mistakes and enemies in my past life, so, after 3 consecutive social gatherings, on my way home at midnight, I was abducted by several men in baseball caps and shoved into a white van without feeling any surprise. Who ordered you to kidnap me? I can offer twice the money. No. 3 times. Unequal negotiations always revolve around pleasing the other party, so as I was pushed into the vehicle, my mind was rapidly spinning. Unfortunately, they were unmoved. And suddenly a knife was pressed against my throat. TCH, they weren't after money, but my life. May I ask whom have I offended? Before I could finish my sentence, the knife had already pierced slightly into my skin. I shut up as a voice modified by a voice changer echoed in my ear. Don't worry. I don't want your life, I just need you to do something for me. The blade traced my veins, constantly reminding me that my life was hanging by a thread. Now, call Zhou Qingchuan. Ask him for the key to the YDX2 formula. YDX2, I remember, this anti-cancer drug was about to be launched, spearheaded by Zhou Qingchuan. Its release could potentially revolutionize the fields of medicine and pharmacy. Unfortunately, in my past life, both Zhou Qingchuan and I died on the eve of its launch. I was killed in a car accident on the way to the launch event, and he died running into the blazing inferno to embrace me, disregarding his own safety. We're not buddies, I'm just his ex-wife. Do you think I can get something so important? But hearing the kidnapper's demand almost made me laugh. It might be the illusion I created that deceived them, making these people think that Zhou Qingchuan was still the same person I could summon or dismiss at will. Only I knew that even if I died now, It wouldn't cause him a ripple. Tell him you've been kidnapped. Tell him you're going to die. The blade finally drew a line of blood along my neck. The man eased up a bit, then pressed the knife tip against my chest. I really had no choice. From his tone, he wasn't lying. If I couldn't get the key, I definitely wouldn't survive the night. But YDX2 was essentially all of Zhou Qinchuan's life's work. Those people wanted the formula probably to launch it before he could. If I actually managed to get it, it would ruin Zhou Qinchuan's life, the brilliant and great future of Professor Zhou. Compared to the life of a villain like me, it was clear I should sacrifice myself. But unfortunately, as I said, I'm a selfish person. Give me the phone. I can only say I'll try my best. The man seemed pleased with my compliance. Before the call connected, I prepared myself. First, I needed to use a perfectly pitched crying tone, then add a tremble to my voice, say to him, Zhou Qinchuan, I'm about to die, please save me, because he always fell for my active submission. This way, the chances of success might not be 70 or 60%, but definitely 30 or 40. But the moment the call connected, my mind went blank. Hello. Hearing his softly responding voice reminded me that it had been 4 months since we last spoke. I thought for a long time, Lin Huan, shouldn't you be the most selfish person, Lin Huan? Don't you care about your own life, Lin Huan? You already owe Zhou Qinchuan so much. What's a little more? But in the end, as I looked up at the moon outside the window, tonight's moonlight was just too beautiful. I said, Zhou Qinchuan, happy birthday. I said, you're such a fool, lucky that today happens to be your birthday. Don't fall for me in your next life, dummy. I lunged towards the tip of the knife, wondering what the greatest failure in life is, a miserly, selfish ghost. One day, I gave everything generously, it's so shameful. I've thought about being a good person, if I were born into an ordinary family, with a father and a mother, if I hadn't been kicked and pushed around by everyone from childhood. It's not that I don't want to be a good person, it's just that if I've lived until now, I couldn't possibly be a good person. But the definition of a good person varies from person to person. I bankrupted a company, sparing its owner the pain of experiencing its future failure. Am I not a good person? I'm too good, actually. However, I think Zhou Qinchuan is a good person, in the conventional sense. After all, he's lived an upright life, never doing a single despicable thing. So, when he got close to me, all I could think about was destroy him. Destroy him? I couldn't destroy him, he's incorruptible. A world apart from me. I remember one night, after we became an item, he rose from me. I suddenly hooked my arms around his neck, our faces so close, his breath on my face, his intense gaze burning into me. Would you love me, even if I were a bad woman? I asked him, almost playfully. His Adam's apple bobbed gently, then he stared at me, his sincere black eyes fixed on me. He said, I would. His fingertips touched the most sensitive part of my spine, biting my shoulder, softly enduring. When have you ever not been a bad woman? So I had already ruined him, there was no denying it. The world changes. I don't believe in 100% true feelings in this world. The only thing I'm sure of is his love for me. He managed to do something so difficult, so, if one day my broken life could have a glorious end, then I would reluctantly allow him to give it a grand finale. I stared at the ceiling, moving up and down. Is this heaven? Impossible. Not because heaven looks too much like a ship's hold, but because of the person sleeping next to me. How could Zhou Qinchuan and I possibly end up in the same place after death? You're awake? The person next to me glanced at me lightly, then pulled the slightly slipped blanket back over my shoulders. Where are we? On the high seas? We're probably approaching Copenhagen soon. That's quite a drift. Why didn't I die? You want to die that badly? I turned to look at him, his eyes dark, his complexion not so good, and his gaze a bit fierce. I raised my hand, stroking his stubble. So you came to save me after all. What's the cost? Zhou Qinchuan. Give up the identity of a medical scholar. Hand over YDX2. Never to involve in this field again, nor step half into the country's territory. Right. I turned my head, the ship's rail framing the surging waves. The ones who orchestrated my kidnapping were led by my father. I should have known, my rights are too heavy. He needed to pave the way for his own daughter. In the end, I'm still just a stray dog that anyone can kick around. The sea breeze carried a faint, moist scent. I leaned next to him, tightening the blanket around me. Zhou Qinchuan. Don't you have even the slightest grievance? He stared at me. Juan, there are many things that I just do if I feel like doing them. I've tried taking a different path in life, but it wasn't what I wanted. In this world, everything is rigidly defined, everything in black and white, but for you, I can break all the rules. In the dimly lit cabin, he gently touched my hand. If it means following a path to the end with you, then I'm ready to spend another lifetime by your side. I'm so infatuated with you, especially when you gave up your life for me. I really hate myself. My life is already a mess. What does it matter if I let go of my pride for you? He asked me what I was smiling about. I just think, this world is hellishly fair. I looked up, I have nothing left. But I still have you. You have everything, yet you're stuck with me. I quietly said to myself, Zhou Qinchuan, let's not meet in the next life. I rubbed the tips of his fingers Then our fingers intertwined, this lifetime, let me protect you, letter to Lin Huan, yesterday, Mrs. Smith next door told me she saw you pacing at the garden gate for a long time before heading home, this morning, you rushed out of the door without a word, using grocery shopping as an excuse. I think you must have heard the news from across the ocean, YDX2 is indeed my life's work, and I had anticipated the unprecedented success it would bring to the Lin family, to be honest. I find the torment of not having spoken to you for 11 whole hours far greater than seeing my efforts used by others. I know we feel differently about matters of the heart, you can't understand my love for you. A feeling that for me transcends conventional meaning and even life and death, therefore, you don't need to worry about hurting me, after all, your mere attention is a gift enough for me. You hid in your room last night and cried, I heard it, I felt contempt mixed with pity and annoyance, yet also a thrill in my heart, it shows that you care about me, and this slight concern makes me tremble with excitement, almost desperate to hold you and kiss you. I constantly suppress these pathological, frantic thoughts, an assault of my mind upon you, my sin, so, you don't need to blame yourself, you don't need to, just keep doing what you want to do, whether it's being flamboyant or humble, as long as it's what you want. By the way, to answer a question you always ask, why did I fall in love with you? I've said it many times before, that day, when your father brought you to the door, your brown scarf gently slipped from your shoulders, I saw you, what I mean is, loving you needs no reason. Because it's you, there's never been a reason.